Imagine, it is May 1940. You are standing in the heart of Paris. The sun is warm, the cafes are full, and there is an absolute, unshakable sense of security. You belong to the greatest military power on the planet. Let us look at the numbers, the cold, hard facts that the world has forgotten. You have 4,000 tanks. The Germans, they have barely 2,500. Your armor is thicker, your guns are heavier, and behind you stands the Maginot Line, a wall of concrete and steel that no army in history could ever hope to break. The world looks at you and sees a titan, an invincible giant. But here, in Paul's Chronicles, we do not look at the surface, we look at the cracks. We look at the shadows that the generals refuse to see. And you won't be navigating these shadows alone. Meet Paul, our silent observer, the man in the helmet, the man with the mustache. He is here to guide you through the files that time wanted forgotten. The question haunts the silence of history. How do you, possessing the strongest army in Europe, lose everything in just 6 weeks? How does a global superpower evaporate in only 43 days? Before we uncover the first domino to fall, if you are ready to see the truth behind the smoke, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps Paul keep these archives alive for those who seek the reality of the past. If you have your own theories, tell us in the comments. The collapse did not begin with a tank. It began with a coincidence and a cloud of winter fog. January 10th, 1940. A small German plane, a Messerschmitt 108, loses its way over the frozen fields of Belgium. On board is a man named Helmuth Rheinberger. In his lap sits a yellow briefcase, and inside that briefcase, the complete top-secret plans for the invasion of the West. The plane shudders, the engine fails, and it slams into the snowy ground near the town of Mechelin. Rheinberger is desperate. He scrambles from the wreckage, huddled by a hedge, trying frantically to burn the documents before the Belgian guards arrive. But the fire is too slow, the wind is too cold. The papers are only half charred when the soldiers seize them. Now, the Allies hold Hitler's hand of cards. They know the plan. They know the Germans intend to strike through the Belgian plains, just like they did in the Great War. In Berlin, Hitler is in a state of pure, volcanic rage. His generals are terrified, the plan is dead, the surprise is gone. But this failure, this single atmospheric accident, becomes the catalyst for the most dangerous gamble in the history of warfare. A man named Erich von Manstein steps into the light. He points to a spot on the map that no one, not even the French, has bothered to defend. A place of ancient trees, deep ravines, and total silence. The Ardennes. The French generals laughed at the idea. The forest is its own fortress, they said. Tanks cannot breathe in those woods. They were so certain, so safe. But while you slept in your concrete bunkers, the German war machine was turning away from the plains and heading straight into the dark, emerald heart of the forest. The trap was being set, and the world was about to watch the impossible become inevitable. The Ardennes, to the French High Command, it was a dream of safety, a natural wall of ancient oak and jagged stone. They believed no tank, no army could ever pierce this emerald heart of Europe. They left it lightly guarded, they left it to the mist. But as you stand there, in the silence of May 10th, the trees begin to tremble. Deep within the forest, a line of steel stretches back for 100 miles. 3 panzer divisions, thousands of engines idling in the dark. The French scouts report the noise, they report the lights. But the generals in Paris, they simply shake their heads. It is an illusion, they say. The trees will hold them. They were wrong. But look closer at the men inside those tanks. Look at their eyes. They are wide, fixed, crystalline. These soldiers have not slept for 3 days. They have not eaten a proper meal, and yet they are moving with a speed that defies human biology. This is the hidden fuel of the Blitzkrieg. Not just gasoline, but Pervitin, methamphetamine, millions of tiny white pills, distributed to every driver, every commander. In Paul's Chronicles, we see the truth behind the Superman myth. It wasn't just superior bravery, it was a chemical storm. A generation of young men, wired, vibrating, pushed beyond the edge of exhaustion, driving through the night while the French army slept. Think about that. An entire army on a forced drug trip, racing toward the heart of France. If this revelation changes how you see the war, drop a like. It helps Paul's voice reach more people who want the truth. While the Germans were high on speed, the French leadership was suffering from a different kind of fog. Meet General Gamelin, the man in charge of the world's best army. He sits in the Château de Vincennes, a medieval fortress on the outskirts of Paris. But here's the terrifying reality. He has no radio. He has no telephone. In the middle of the most high-speed invasion in history, the commander of France relies on motorcycle couriers. Messages take hours, sometimes days, to reach him. By the time he learns a bridge has been lost, the German tanks are already 50 miles past it. But there was a darker rot. Gamelin was battling a ghost from his past, neurosyphilis. The disease was quietly, slowly, eroding his ability to think, to decide, to act. While the panzers crossed the Meuse River, the man responsible for stopping them was trapped in a mental prison of his own. A paralysis of the mind, meeting a blitzkrieg of the blood. The gap between what Paris believed and what was actually happening on the ground was a chasm of death. Are you beginning to see? It wasn't just about who had more tanks. It was about who was awake and who was dreaming. Tell me in the comments, do you think France ever stood a chance against this chemical onslaught? As the French front shattered, something strange happened, something that still puzzles historians to this day. Hitler ordered the tanks to stop. The halt order, the mystery of Dunkirk, and the moment where the world almost ended. May 24th, 1940. The German panzers are screaming toward the coast. The British and French armies are trapped, backed against the cold waters of the English Channel, at a place called Dunkirk. They are exhausted, they are beaten, they are waiting for the final blow, and then the unthinkable happens. The engines stop, the tanks stay silent. Hitler has issued the halt order. For 3 days, the most aggressive army in history simply waits. Why, even today, in the dusty corners of the archives, historians argue. Was it Hitler's respect for the British Empire, a strange attempt to offer a golden bridge for peace? Was it the ego of Hermann Göring, promising that his Luftwaffe could finish the job alone? Or was it fear? A fear that the victory was too easy, a trap waiting to spring. As you stand on those beaches, looking at the horizon, you see the smoke of burning trucks. You hear the distant thunder of planes. Paul is there too, watching the thousands of small boats, fishing vessels, yachts, lifeboats, coming from the mist to save a dying army. The miracle of Dunkirk was born from a German mistake. But while the soldiers escaped, France was burning. Behind the front lines, a nightmare was unfolding that no map could capture. L'Exode, the Great Exodus. Imagine, 10 million people, 1/4 of the entire population of France, on the move. They are not an army, they are families, grandparents in wheelbarrows, mothers carrying infants, children clutching terrified pets. They are fleeing a shadow, a rumor of German brutality that moves faster than the tanks. You are in that crowd, The roads are choked with cars that have run out of fuel, abandoned wagons, and the discarded suitcases of a civilization in collapse. When the German Stukas dive from the sky, there is nowhere to hide. The screams of the dying are lost in the roar of the engines. This was the death of a society. In just a few weeks, the laws of men evaporated. Neighbors fought over a crust of bread. The government fled. Paris, the city of light, was declared an open city. If the tragedy of the Great Exodus moves you, leave a like. We must remember the millions who lost everything in the chaos of those 43 days. And tell me in the comments, if you were there, would you stay to fight or join the tide of refugees? June 14th, 1940. The silence in Paris is absolute. The only sound is the rhythmic, heavy, mechanical thud of German boots on the Champs-Élysées. The Titan has fallen. 43 days, that is all it took for the strongest army in the world to vanish. As Paul looks over the ruins of a broken nation, we have to ask, was it the tanks? Was it the drugs? Or was it the fact that France was fighting a war of the past, while the world had already moved into a terrifying, high-speed chemical future? The Chronicles of 1940 are closed, but the war is only just beginning. June 22nd, 1940. History has a cruel sense of symmetry. To end the war, Hitler orders a specific railway carriage to be brought to the forest of Compiègne. It is the same carriage where Germany surrendered in 1918. He wants to erase the shame of the past by creating a new, deeper shame for France. As you watch the newsreels, you see Hitler stepping out of the car. He is not just a conqueror. He is an architect of humiliation. He stands on the very spot where the Great War ended, and for a moment, the world feels as if it has tilted on its axis. The terms are brutal. France is sliced in half. The North, including Paris, is under the steel boot of German occupation. The South is left to a puppet government in a small town called Vichy. Now, you face a choice that will define your soul. On one side, there is Marshal Philippe Pétain, an 84-year-old hero of the past, who tells you that surrender is the only way to save France. He speaks of order, of collaboration, of accepting the new reality. But on the other side, coming through the static of a radio from London, is a voice you don't recognize, the voice of Charles de Gaulle. France has lost a battle, he says, but France has not lost the war. Who do you believe, the legend who stayed or the rebel who fled? This choice, this tearing of the French heart, is a wound that will not heal for decades. Paul stands there, in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, witnessing the first flyers of the resistance being pasted onto stone walls at night. The silence of Paris is the loudest sound you have ever heard. The cafes are still there, the streetlights still flicker, but the spirit of the city has been hollowed out. The strongest army in the world is now a memory. Hundreds of thousands of French soldiers are being marched into Germany as prisoners of war, to work in factories, to disappear from their families for years. If you feel the weight of this history, if you understand the tragedy of a nation lost in just 6 weeks, show your support by liking this video. It ensures that Paul's Chronicles continue to tell the stories that others find too painful to recount. And tell me in the comments, if you were a French citizen in June 1940, would you have followed the Marshal into the shadows of collaboration, or would you have risked everything to join the resistance? Your perspective helps us build a deeper archive of the human spirit. 43 days. It wasn't just a military defeat, it was a collapse of faith. It was the moment the world realized that the old rules, the old certainties, were gone forever. the Blitzkrieg had rewritten history in blood and methamphetamine. But while France fell, a small island across the channel was bracing for the storm. The files on France are closed, but the chronicles of the Great War are just beginning. Next time, we look into the eyes of the pilots who defended the skies of Britain and the secret weapons that changed the tide of the Atlantic. I am the historian. This is Paul, and these are the chronicles of a world on fire. Stay in the shadows. Until next time.